after this, what do you want to do? Rehearse, edit, or go sit in the sun? All right.
All right, we're square.
We'll rehearse.
We got speed and we're,
God damn it. Oh, you got speed. I'm sorry. Okay, sorry. So what about the last 3 months was so unpleasant for you with Van Halen?
Are we on here? People ask me all the time about the last 3 months of Van Halen and what really happened, Dave, you know. And I'm reading all kinds of wild stories coming from the Van Halen camp about what transpired there. A lot of stories about first Edward says, we fired him. We decided to throw him out of the band because we never wanted him in the band. And then 2 weeks later we read, well, no, Dave split to go be a movie star. Dave left because of his own giant ego. And I'm here to tell you that it's a lot of BS. It's a lot of excuses that are being peddled because these guys couldn't get off their butt and make a record. I remember sitting there for a lot of days with my producer, Teddy Templeman, who's done a lot of records, and he'll tell you, too, that we sat out in that backyard studio in front of 5150 because Mr. Fingers couldn't get out of bed for 4 days in a row. And I remember sitting for a number of days in a row because Mr. Sticks was driving across country with his new wife, and he wasn't on time either. And I wanted to make a record. I wanted to go on the road. I wanted to travel around the world and do as much of that for as long as possible. And I think the Van Halens forgot where they came from. I keep reading all these stories about, oh, we used to be a Volkswagen with Dave, but now with our new singer, we're a Porsche, a Porsche, a Porsche. That's all they think about is Porsche, Ferrari, and that's exactly what they went for. They went and they did the kind of music that will get you that kind of car. And if mine's a Volkswagen, well, then there's a whole lot more people in my back seat than you'll ever find in your fancy French car. People say to me all the time, Dave, what about your ego? No blondes on tour, no blondes allowed on stage. I'm reading this kind of garbage in all kinds of magazines now, and it's coming from the same two guys again and again and again. And, you know, that's a big part of the reason that I left Van Halen is that kind of dishonesty. I don't think the guys are being honest to themselves, and I know damn well they're not being honest to the audience here. As far as things like, Dave, what about no blondes on stage like that? Greg, come here. Where's Billy? Billy! Come here for a second. Let me introduce you to a couple of guys from the new band here. This is Greg Bissonette, drummer of the century right here. And this is Bad Billy Sheehan, our bass man extraordinaire.
How you doing?
Just goes to show, you know, sometimes you can't always believe what you read. People always asking me, Dave, is it rock and roll or movies? Look, I'm not an actor. I've said it a million times. If I'd wanted to be a movie star, if I'd wanted to be any kind of an acting movie star, I would have taken one of the hundreds of offers that have been coming into our offices for years now. And they come from all kinds of people, big directors, little directors. I would have taken one of them. And the people who keep telling you that I left the Van Halen band to be a movie star know that. And it's a situation where I wanted to fill a little bit of time and put an hour and a half worth of rock and roll on film for you. I wasn't going to be the only one in the movie. That's why we had our big casting call. So when we do a movie, it's going to be pure rock and roll, and you're invited. Ah, boy, did we have a good time making Yankee Rose. We booked a hall out in San Bernardino, California, which is like my backyard here in Los Angeles. And in fact, that's where I played at the US Festival. And we put out a thing on the radio stations, had like 4,000 of our closest friends come on out, and the people were just crazy. Half of them were beautiful girls, them California girls, you know. And, you know, I keep hearing and reading about at the Van Halen concerts, people are bringing in signs or people are yelling something about Dave. Well, you know, when we did our show, I saw plenty of that out in our audience, you know, about, you know, the international logo where it says Van Halen and a big slash through it and that kind of thing. I don't bring that up. I don't put that in my videos. I'm not going to drag that up on my stage for you. This is supposed to be rock and roll. This is supposed to be a good time. It's supposed to be fun, man. And I'm not going to drag that element into my show, but I keep being reminded of it again and again and again. And a lot of that reason is I think somebody should just shut up and enjoy themselves at some point in time. Cool?
Pretty nice. Glad to see you back.
Did I leave Van Halen, or did they ask me to leave? I think that all depends basically on which magazine, which interview with Edward Van Halen that you're reading at the time. At one point, it sounded good to him to say that they had fired me and that they had thrown me out of the band because they had wanted somebody else to sing at any time. And struck me that the audience didn't buy that one so good, so a few issues later we read that Dave, because of his huge ego, he split of his own and he wanted to go do a movie or something like that. So it depends on which magazine you're reading at the time, as well as I think there's a lot of dishonesty going on there. And that's a big part of the reason that I left Van Halen. I wanted to be legitimate with the fans. I wanted to be honest with my music and with going on the road and backing up what I told you. I wanted to go on the road for a long period of time. And I didn't want to do just 2 months on the road with giant stadiums, charge everybody. The same person who sits in the 900th seat pays as much as a cat in the front row seat. That's not good for my kind of show. And I always told you with Van Halen that we're the people's band, that we were for the people. Well, I guess I still am.
All set?
People ask me, Dave, what was the first thing that you did when you left Van Halen? And the first thing and the last thing and the only thing that was always and is on my mind is I'm going to make a rock and roll band. We're going to make a record, and we're going to go on the tour, man. And that's exactly what I did. You know, you've heard this story about this story about that. We got into the studio pretty soon when I got together with Stevie Vai, you know, Billy Sheehan and Greg. And that's what we're doing right here, man. Eat 'em and smile time. We're going on the road, the biggest production in the history of rock and roll. And it's all for you out there. Yeah, we're going to start in the United States, and we're going to all the little places as well as the gigantor cities, you know. United States is not just Los Angeles, Dallas, and New York. It's everything else in between as well, you know. And I couldn't get the last band to travel to a lot of these little places, and those are my best memories, is what happened in the little places in the United States and otherwise. And we're going on the road probably for 10 months to a year. I say probably because it'll probably be longer.
Well, for the most part, Dave and I wrote the music together, and that stuff just comes about by accident most of the time. I usually write songs pretty unorthodox than most people. I just pick up the guitar, and the first thing that comes to mind is usually the best thing. And I'll play it for Dave, and we get a bunch of parts together, and he's pretty much like the ringleader, you know. Sometimes he's up in the kitchen, and I'll just be downstairs with my amps way, way too loud, so you can hear it throughout the whole neighborhood. And I'll play. When he hears something he likes, he goes, stop, stop, comes running downstairs. What was that? And I'll go, it was this. And we look around. You like that? You like it? Yeah, that's good. So, you know, start building it after that. And that's how a lot of the licks come about. And sometimes we all get together. You know, after we get a basic skeleton of the song together, the band kind of puts in the criticism and whatnot and come across with some really neat stuff. We're kind of like the Gumby and Pokey of the rock and roll industry.
Positive up, raising your voice and stuff, you know?
Well, it's not really my personality, but...
Well, I mean, just if you're going to say, I can't wait to get out on tour, you lift your voice a little bit, right? Are we rewinding the audio also?
Do you want me to repeat the question? The differences between working with Frank Zappa and David Lee Roth. Well, Frank's got this little thing on his chin right here that Dave doesn't have. I try to talk him into growing it, you know, but he just doesn't want to. No, actually, they're both, actually, there's a lot of similarities. They're very demanding, both guys, with their music, which is what I like. And going out on the road is different. There's a lot more room on the stage right now, and my view towards touring is a lot different now than it was then. When I was with Frank, I was out on the road. I was 19, 20 years old, traveling the world. I was just a puppy. Still a puppy, but I guess it's in a different backyard. how do I compare myself with Edward Van Halen? Well, we both play guitars. He's married, I'm not. No, all kidding aside, I mean, Edward is Edward. He's created a style that a lot of people are influenced by. I'm inspired by it myself. But now, I feel I have my own style, and I'm very happy to be in the situation where I get to express myself with that style. I don't think about anybody when I'm playing with Dave on stage. I don't think about what anybody else is thinking either. My head goes out, and I'm having a great time. I feel ecstatic on that stage. Sometimes I feel like I'm going to explode. It's a great feeling, and I'm really looking forward to this tour.
Perfect.
Yeah. Great. Two answers.
Yeah, there's two takes on this one.
Yeah. How do I like playing with Billy Sheehan? Well, when I first heard that David Lee Roth had Billy Sheehan in the band, I thought, well, I got to get on this train. Well, this guy knows what he's doing. And I was a little apprehensive at first, and I didn't know how it would work, but after we started playing together, it's more of a joy than I thought it would be. Playing with Bill is, we complement each other real well, and I learn a lot from watching the guy, and we laugh at each other on the stage when we're playing, with, you know, all good intentions, and it's very therapeutic. Hang on a second.
I'm going to start this out wide, Dave. I'll talk into that frame. Drop it in. All right, come on. Start inching out. Whoa.
How much creative freedom do you have with Dave Roth?
A lot. A whole lot. Too much. I get out of control. Actually, Dave loves guitar. He loves loud rock guitar. And you'd be surprised in the studio where I think I might be doing too much or maybe even taken away from the vocals. He's saying, do more, you know. And he's very constructive with the guitar. I was surprised that he actually knew so much about arrangement on the guitar. And he likes to hear a lot of it. And this is good for me because I like to play a lot of it.
Got it. Did we rewind it?
Yeah. Can I take a different approach and fly up the handle it? Good.
How you like playing in this band, Billy?
Well, I have to say, playing in this band is literally a dream come true. For 10 years since I first saw Van Halen play, I went originally to see Eddie play guitar because I'm a musician type and all. And I found I was transfixed by this lead singer with his stories and his rap and his jumping around. He made the whole show so entertaining that it was literally a dream of mine to play with him. And when I finally got the call, it was mind-blowing. And now I'm with Steve Vai, who is an incredible genius, who's going to be teaching me a lot of things, I'm sure, over this next year, and some things on guitar, too. And our drummer, Greg, he's one of my favorite drummers. We have an automatic magic that works together, and with Dave in front, can't miss. The happiest I've ever been in my whole life. Well, I've never done a real video before in my life, and it was all new to me, and I didn't know it was so easy. You just run out on stage, you go nuts and do what you do normally when you play, and have a great time. And fortunately, we got a chance to bring a lot of people down to watch it and have some audience there. And that was a lot of fun because my whole purpose in life is to play live in front of people. And it was a complete riot. We had a great time. Is that it? Cool. What's next?
So how do you feel about the size of the production?
Ready? How do I feel about the size of the production? Well, I've played in clubs my whole life, pretty much. I've done a few tours. We opened for Van Halen in 1980. We got to see that production, and that was the biggest thing I'd ever seen or been on in my whole life. And when I walked in and first saw this production, I thought I was in the wrong place. I was like, you know, is this new Star Wars movie or what? And it was amazing technology of lights and sound and all kinds of stuff. But the whole purpose of it isn't to be technology of lights and sound. It's to be a giant playground for us to go out and sweat and have a good time. So it's the most high-tech playground I've ever seen. There's a lot of room to move and a lot of room to have fun, and that's why it's here. What's it like? Okay.
We're all set. What's it like working with Dave?
What's it like working with Dave? Well, Dave, to me, has been for me like a giant cheerleader. Whenever I play, whenever I do anything, he's always there saying, great, great, more of it, give me more of that. Whenever I do anything that I feel is, well, can I go this far? He goes, yeah, not only can you go that far, go that much farther. And it's always, he makes me feel really good, and it gives me a lot of room to do what I want, a lot of freedom, a lot of input on how the band works, and how the songs sound, how everything works. And it's funny that when I read things in various publications, they must be talking about someone different than the guy I'm working with, because this is the easiest gig I've ever had in my life.
You ever have conversations about being in the Van Halen band?
Conversation?
You ever have any conversations about possibly being in the Van Halen band?
Well, about being in Van Halen, my answering machine, I have what's called Bill's greatest hits of phone calls of all the people in various bands that have called me up and asked me to join their bands. And I haven't joined any band other than my own for the last 10 years. I was waiting for the one special thing, and it's here now. But I used to have several conversations with Dave's old guitar player, and I was promised a lot of things. We spoke a lot, and I think highly of him as a player. And I was honored that he had considered me at one point to possibly work with him. But when it never came together, so it never happened. And when Dave finally called me, I thought to myself, well, here we go again with some more broken promises. But I can say it's obvious now that Dave always delivers what he promises.
Got it.
How has your social life changed?
My social life since I've been in this band has been tremendous. The whole band, we get together, we go out to clubs, and you know, hang out with kids that are in the clubs, you know, like we are. You know, we don't get limousines and security and stuff. That's kind of, you know, we're not rock stars. Just go out to have a good time. And it's funny, one night I went out to the Troubadour, which is in Hollywood, and just walking down the street, and the whole gang of kids in front loading their gear in, you know, they all stopped and started to applaud. And I looked behind me to see, you know, was there someone coming up behind me, and they were applauding me. I couldn't believe it. It was like the greatest honor in my life is to have people on the street, people that are my peers, kids in bands starting out, you know, playing the Troubadour, humping their own equipment around, you know, to appreciate what I'm doing. That was a high point. And to go out with that kind of atmosphere is just the best way to go out and have fun. We just have a riot when we go out, and we like to hang with the people that come to our shows and see the videos, and makes us feel great that they're there.
Okay, perfect, perfect, great.
I play drums, seriously,
Right?
Say, guys. Thanks.
Got it. Well, I love to play the drums, you know. But I also surf, and this morning I was out there on Huntington Beach at like 6 a.m. You wouldn't believe that I caught this one wave. It was so righteous. I caught that wave. I must have hung 10 for about, say, a block and a half. I said, there's nothing bogus about that wave, dude. You know what I mean? Okay. Okay. I can remember. Well, I used to play in my own band back in Detroit called Grand Circus Park, and we used to play a lot, you know, around town and stuff. And then I joined the Maynard Ferguson Big Band, you know, 18-piece ensemble and everything. But I'll always remember the first time my folks took me to see the Beatles. And I knew from the minute I saw Hard Day's Night and I saw those cats getting chased down the street by the girls, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. And now it's all happening right here. It's like I'm working with David Lee Roth, and he's, you know, in my mind, he's the greatest. And I'm a big fan of his, and I just can't believe it's all happening. But it is, right here. Yeah. Well, the music I'm playing with Steve and Billy and Dave, first of all, one of my biggest things that I always loved to do was drive down the street and remember the words to a song and be able to sing it all day long. And I can still drive in my car after recording the tunes, playing them in rehearsals over and over, and I can still sing, going crazy, and it just picks me up during the day. Musically, there are so many things that I enjoy. Steve and Billy are great to work with. I was a big fan of Steve's a long time ago when he was doing the Zappa stuff, and Billy with Tallis, and it's just really fantastic. There's tunes like Shy Boy that we'll do. We'll start off with a 16th note double bass thing, and then there's all kinds of polyrhythmic kicks that'll go over that. We'll do a tune like Elephant Gun and all of a sudden pull the rug out and come way down where 2 and 4 is just barely in there during the bass solo, and we'll come in and we'll crescendo up. All of a sudden the guitar solo comes in, bam, and it's just 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, chopping wood, as they say in drum talk. And we're just chopping wood all the way through the guitar solo. A lot of dynamics, a lot of room to breathe, a lot of room to just have a great time.
Back up and start again.
I'll tell you, when I first thought about, we're going in the studio to record a new David Lee Roth album, I thought, gee, how is Ted Templeman going to have me record? Is he going to have me play with some kind of a set click track thing or use electronic this and that and this and that? And I said, gee, Ted, how should I go about it? Should I do this and that? He says, look, we're just going to go, we're going to play it as if it was just a live thing. We're going to capture the moment, and we're going to have you go ahead and play your real acoustic drums. We're going to get a killer sound on them. We're just going to play with that human feel that can, if it wants to breathe a little bit here and there, it can do that, like in the halftime section of Yankee Rose. Ding, da, ding, da. You can pull things back and forth and get that human feel and human sound, because that's what rock and roll is all about. Well, I was always a big fan of the old Van Halen. I remember seeing him back at Cobo Hall in 1979, and they're a different band, and we're a different band, different players, and I really don't like to draw comparisons. They're going to have their way of doing things, and we'll have our way of doing things, and hopefully everyone just wants to rock and roll and have a good time.
And then she said, and the colored girls go, how did Dave like my moves in the Yankee Rose video? Well, he said, just don't hurt yourself, because we got to go on tour, But I guess he liked them because he edited it. I'll tell you, the best thing about doing the Yankee Rose video is getting on stage with David Lee Roth and seeing how he is in front of an audience. He really knows how to keep them going, and it was an amazing thing to watch. And I realized that he's the same way off as he is when he's on. And that's one of the things I learned, was to keep that honesty going between your audience and your personal relationships with people. But for me, getting on the stage, at first it seemed a little, I don't know, here I am with the king, and I fell into it pretty easily. And the funny thing was, the audience was filled with women. I haven't seen that many women since Billy Sheehan's hotel room in Berkeley. But actually, no, just kidding, just kidding. Okay. It's funny, some of the things that people throw up on the stage. Underwear. I got a gold bracelet, lipstick. It was quite an adventure, but that was the Yankee Rose video. I think the tour is going to be just as exciting. Is that all right? Yeah. I thought that once he got in front of people or whatever, it would become a weird vibe, but he's always turned on. And some people think that that's a detriment or something, but he's always on. And that's one of the things I've learned too about him.
people ask me, what kind of a bass player is Billy Sheehan really? Because there's all this mystique, you know, that surrounds him. He's been on the covers of all these magazines and never had a major album release yet until Eat 'Em and Smile, you know. And I tell him, Billy is the kind of guitar player, a bass player, that I call a white tiger. And if you see a white tiger come out of the trees, then at first you recognize most of the parts, but the colors are all different than from what you're usually used to seeing, see? So if you put on the Walkman or you stick your head in between the speakers and you listen to Eat 'Em and Smile, on any one of the given tunes, what you may initially perceive to be, oh, that's just the guitar, if you listen closely, you'll hear that very often it isn't, that it's the bass player. And Billy's the kind of player who can do all the virtuoso licks and at the same time really give it that 1, 2, 3 hike, you know, that rock and roll really needs. Steve Vai is the kind of guitar player I call, his style, I call it, look ma, no hands. And you know, what I mean by that is, when you remember when you were a little kid and you'd go climb the tree and you'd stand on the skinniest little branch, man, the one that was guaranteed to snap off at some point in the very near future, and you'd stand on that one and go, look ma, no hands. Well, that's the way Stevie approaches his solos. That's the way Stevie approaches everything that he's playing on that axe. It sounds like it's all going to just break up and fly apart at any single point in time, but the precision always stays there. It's a balance between that crazy jumping style and absolute precision. Nice guy, hell of a drummer. Greg Bissonette is something very unusual as well. Here's somebody who has all the rock and roll attitude, but as you may hear from his interviews and such, he has so much experience with music. And most people, given their own thoughts, you know, they say, what do you think about rock and roll drummers? And people will say, oh, that's the guy who doesn't contribute nothing. Oh, that's the guy who doesn't do anything but keep time. Well, there are a lot of bands who have nothing but timekeepers in the background. But here we have somebody who can sing, who can articulate the music. He writes his own music, and he contributes as much as any one of us to the whole group sound. And it is a group. That's the essential part, and that's the fun part, is that it's a gang. Some people say, Dave, isn't it kind of like a family? No, it's like a roving youth gang, and you're invited. Cool? How do I feel about going on tour with this new band? I feel delirious, man. I can't wait to get on the road. It's been a while since I get on the road, and I think it's going to be a lot different when we get out this time and we start playing these shows, because the guys are going to want to be there every night. They're going to want to get out and play the shows and go and visit the different places, no matter how small they are. And with this band, just because of the instrumentation that these guys play with, you can do things live. Again, you can reach out. You can try different things. There's a lot of different ways to approach rock and roll, you know. And live is what I was born for, you know. It's just exciting to be surrounded with people who really want to play, who really want to go on the road, and who really want to rock 'em and roll. Okay? There's some people who are kind of cutting that down just right about now. I said this is like a parade, so you just keep on raining, babe, and we'll just keep on being the parade.